Hi, I created this video to share the story of how my little sister Monica overcame epilepsy by following the ketogenic diet. If you found this video, chances are someone you know might be starting the diet soon. And this video will show you that it is possible for a high-fat, low-protein, virtually no carbohydrate diet to succeed where even high doses of anti-seizure drugs have failed. After 4.5 years of treating Monica, my parents have become experts at creating food that adheres to this seemingly magical diet. This video should give you some ideas on how to manage this difficult task on your own.
Often, like at least once a month, all the way up until the age of 3, Monica would wake up in the middle of the night, she would throw up, she would gaze in one spot on the ceiling, and she would do these weird things with her mouth. And I thought that that was a seizure. And the doctor would say, oh no, that's not a seizure. I went back to the doctor and I said, I think she's having seizures. I've already looked up this stuff in books, I looked them up on the internet, and it seemed to me that she's just having atypical ones. And the doctor would say, oh no, you know what, to appease you, to do you a favor, I'll tell you what, we'll order an EEG. And there's no normal brain waves, completely abnormal, and she's seizing all the time. Now her seizures were not just classic grand mal seizures, although she had plenty of those. Her seizures were really just little shaking here and there, weird mouth movements, kind of like gazing away. They were complex partial seizures.
Monica used to have a couple different types of seizures. She used to have these head drops where, like while she was talking, she would just drop her head and then keep on talking. And she would also have these hand drops that she couldn't really control. They're usually rhythmic or so that she'd be holding onto something and kind of drop her hand a little bit. And those were the typical seizures she would have. And then she would like space out while we were together as a family. She'd have little moments where she'd space out, and then every once in a while she'd have the grand mal seizures that kids classically have.
We tried so many medications with Monica, and even when some of them started to work for a week or two, they would then end up giving her increased frequency of seizures, more bizarre seizures that lasted longer. And we were ready to tape her, put her on a DVD, and send it around the world from different medical institutions to find out, what do you do with a kid like this? We also knew that we were losing her because she's seizing all the time. And she basically was seizing all night long. So we already know from reading enough that your brain can't take that. And eventually, the severe seizures causes dementia over time. So I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, thinking about, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with her? And remembering that I saw a movie, First Do No Harm, about the ketogenic diet. We look it up, and we go back to the pediatric neurologist, and we basically beg him to go on the diet. He kept saying no, the diet is not successful, it's time consuming, and it's not easy for the kids to stay on it, and we should try different medications. So then we get to the point of trying medications that alter her personality. They are experimental, they have so many side effects, one in particular, banned in Europe, still being used here, very scary. Monica was losing weight, she looked emaciated, wasn't eating. I would even put food in her mouth and she wouldn't even chew it, she just wouldn't eat. And we went back to the doctor, begged him, put him on the ketogenic diet. I think what happened is finally she was getting so bad, so more bizarre, the seizures, that he was willing to give in to us, because I think the next step was surgery. So I think he was starting to realize that there was no way that we wouldn't even say yes to that unless we tried the diet, which we kept begging for. So we saw the dietitian, and she was set up for an appointment, and we started the diet, and we presented things to her like, you know, don't you want to be able to ride your bike, which she couldn't do? Don't you want to be able to do karate better? And I think Monica was at the point she felt herself desperate. She couldn't even sit on the toilet without falling off. We always had to hold her, even on the toilet. She couldn't feed herself. She would scoop up macaroni and cheese, and by the time the spoon got to her mouth, it would be empty, and she'd start again.
She had at school the desk with pillows on both sides and a soft pillow on the desk itself, so when she had her drop seizures, she would hit the pillow instead of the desk.
She was always holding our hand, or we carried her everywhere, or her siblings carried her everywhere. So she basically wasn't walking anywhere anymore. So she was on board for it. She was desperate too. When you start the ketogenic diet, it's under the supervision of a physician who works very closely with a dietitian. When Monica was on her ketogenic diet, she was hospitalized for a couple of days, had an IV started to make sure she was hydrated, and then the dietitian, while we were there, showed us how to make some of the meals. We ended up going far beyond what the dietitian showed us because it was very important for us to have variety. Monica's one of 5 kids. We wanted to make sure that she had variety whenever we would go out, and we would want to make sure that she'd be able to participate with activities with other kids, including going to school. So there are a few things. Number one, we're not going to weigh out the food to show you how to do it. We're going to show you ideas how to present the food to get the child on board to be able to participate in the diet. Prior to the diet, we did tell Monica, who was totally willing to do the diet because she was desperate to do fun things. We called it a magical diet. We would say things, you have to eat every last drop, leave nothing behind. So let's just show some ideas. One of the things that is very fun for kids is to have things in little containers. The amount of food is so small that you kind of want to present it in a container so that it looks like a lot of food. And for example, Monica being a little girl, she likes, all the princesses. This is one of the meals where we have everything's measured. The dietitian will tell you what to do, but here we have eggplant with the sauce that was recommended and the amount of cheese, and we would just weigh everything on here, and it looked so much fun to other kids who would eat with her. They would want to try it. And this is the ketogenic diet. Here we have, do you want to explain this one?
Sure. This is tofu noodles, and we have a marinara sauce on here, but we would serve it to Monica with usually ground beef, but you could also put hot dog you could put in there. But anyway, this is noodles with marinara sauce, and in a container that when it's filled up, we didn't put the meat in there, it pretty much filled the whole container, even though it's really still not that many calories and not that much food.
There's another meal that, once again, small containers. If you look over here, we have lots of small containers. We have little ones depending upon the size of the things that we're using. And they look like fun, so it looks like it's fun even for other kids, all these little things that she's going to be eating out of. By the way, every meal had a spatula with her. There's even smaller ones because, once again, the diet is measured to the 1/10 of a gram. You have to eat every little thing. If it's made up of butter and peanut butter or cream cheese, you have to eat every little thing because it's a starvation diet, basically, and so everything is measured. So you can't leave anything left over. So we always gave it with a spatula. There's so many cute little spatulas. These things were bought at a 99-cent store. So you don't have to go expensive, but look, it's so cute. Blue tops, pink tops, and it helps us to figure out what they are. For example, I want to show how to do mayonnaise. There's mayonnaise for every snack and every meal. And we would take lettuce. We were allowed lettuce the size of your hand, a piece of lettuce to go for the whole day. We would make the food in the morning, and there would be lettuce for every single snack and every single meal. So we would break it up. We would wash it. We would try to use the green part so she would have the most amount of vitamins out of it. And then we would dab it on something either with a paper towel or a towel so it's completely dry, because when you're measuring it, even a little bit of water will weigh it down and you'll have less of the lettuce. And then we would give it to her like the mayonnaise on here. So basically we would put this on the scale, zero it out, put a piece of lettuce in there, zero that out because we were allowed a whole lettuce for the day, and then just measure the mayonnaise on here. And then Monica would actually take a fork and she'd eat this like this. It's so much easier to eat the mayonnaise with the lettuce. Okay, so this is one example of a cute little container that would go along with her food. Here's another example. This is one of her meals that she ended up having. just good ideas you can have. There's a meal that has peanut butter and a lot of butter, very little peanut butter, just to cover over the butter, and then a piece of fruit. We would slice the apples so thin, and it mostly smells like peanut butter, but it's mostly butter because it's a high-fat diet. And this will look cute. People would want to have some of what Monica was eating, even though it's the ketogenic diet and it's mostly fat. I want to pause for a second to say that the dietitian is the one that set up exactly how much she was supposed to have. We would keep a book and a log of all the things that she would eat. To make it go fast, because she was going to be on this diet for a couple of years, we put all of her favorite diets in here. And I would mark the ones with a little sticker, the ones that are her favorites. So even if she wasn't able to read, I would say, okay, this is a lasagna meal, green sticker. And that would be like fun for her to even look at with me. So this made it so much easier because we would make a few meals at the same time just to make it easier for herself and line these up and go like assembly line.
Which is very important. Sometimes you get in the habit of memorizing things and not looking back at the piece of paper, which is somewhat dangerous with this because you don't want to make the wrong measurements. And so it's much better to have a card to read from.
We actually promised ourselves that we would never go by memory. Like we tried to not memorize it so that we did not make a mistake. Otherwise, if you go from your memory, it's easier to make a mistake. I want to show you how to do broccoli. Broccoli, there's a meal with broccoli. You're supposed to steam it. And the most important part is the green part of the broccoli. So I would steam it. I would cut off the big stem, which weighs more. I would squeeze out the broccoli from the moisture so that I would have more of the food. And we would actually spend a long time dabbing it to get rid of the liquid. And then here's an example. There's one meal that you measure the broccoli and then you put the cheese on top. And look how cute that is. And sometimes we even melt the cheese on there for her. And this was fun to eat. The bottom line is we're showing you this because the meals can still be pleasant looking, smell good, and it can look like it's more food than it actually is because it's a small amount. And it's something that, you know, that the child's not going to feel like they're being punished. They're not.
This was a favorite meal of Monica. That was tuna fish. And the tuna was the protein part, and of course protein is limited. So a lot of it was mayonnaise. Probably half of it's mayonnaise, and then there's a good amount of avocado, but she loved that combination of avocado and tuna with the mayonnaise.
Okay, now, she was allowed, and I think on all diets you're allowed to have 2 nuts per day to have whenever you want. How nice the child was able to control that part of the day with food. We had these little teeny 99-cent containers where there would be either a filbert or a macadamia nut. And we put it in here, and Monica could actually, when other people are having a donut, whatever else, she can take out of her cute little backpack a little thing. Because after all, for kids, it is important to have things in a cute way. There's something else that we used to do as well. If you go all the way down to the table over here, these are Hansen sodas. No calories, no carbohydrates. We would have all these different types of popsicles, and we would open up a can, let the fizz come out of the can, pour it into here, and we would wait a while for the fizz to go out. When it gets high enough, we put this in and put it in the freezer. And so when Monica even had a party when it was her birthday, I have so many of these. Once again, the appearance of things for kids is so important. I have all kinds of colors, whatever, and the kids would love it. And so some of the kids even wanted their parents to start making stuff like this. This is like a nothing dessert, but to Monica, these things taste great. They're like ices. Another thing, to make things easier on the ketogenic diet, we had a few syringes. This is like one of the things that Monica had with every single meal. The dietitian or doctor will let you know if your child needs it. But this is the conditor that had to be given with the meal because it helps the cells take in the fatty acids. And we would put this in here and draw up some liquid and just put the cap back on it so that when Monica was having her meal, she would learn just to squeeze the thing into her mouth, and it was already dissolved. Even though she's a very young age, she was able to do this so she would feel more independent.
Okay, so with every single meal came cream, and it's a heavy whipping cream that people use for bacon. Nobody drinks it, but in the diet, of course, that's what we're looking for, is the heavy, fatty cream. And so to make this, you put it in a blender, you blend the cream together with vanilla, and you put a certain amount of the sweet 10 droplets in it to give it some flavor. These are no calories. And then we blend it, and then we measured in here the appropriate amount. What we did for her was we did use the blender so that we could then put it in the freezer, freeze it, and it was kind of like ice cream in a way. But
once again, to make it more palatable,
yeah.
the dietitian, by the way, will tell you exactly how much to do and tell you how much to weigh out. And then we, of course, bought things to make it flavorful.
We found that she didn't like it at all because it really is difficult to drink. So we flavored it, and these drinks have no calories in them, and we could use them. And she loved the chocolate, but it also had caramel and vanilla flavors, and I think there's even more that you can get, depending on what your child likes, and it does make it more palatable.
I forgot, there's one last meal here. There's a meal that you can have with cream cheese, because that's a high-fat thing. We used to slice the cucumber so thin to put the cream cheese on top so that it would look pretty, just like the peanut butter, very, very thinly sliced. And then it comes accompanied, like the cream cheese comes with, you could put lots on top. And once again, the dietitian tells you exactly how much and what exactly to use on it. But it looks pleasant. Now, this seems like, oh, this is like no big deal. But when I put Monica on the diet, I was like, how is she going to eat this? How are we going to have her buy into this diet? By making things a little bit more pleasant, by making things seem like it's more food than it really is, just by the containers that you use and the way you present the food, the kid is more likely to stick with the diet.
Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm 16 years old and in 11th grade. I had my last seizure 2 months after starting the diet and have been seizure-free for almost 9 years now. Starting the diet is really hard at first because you're around other people eating foods you cannot eat, but it'll all be worth it in the end. Now that I'm seizure-free, I can do things I love to do, like bike riding, dancing, doing karate, plus eating whatever I want. Also, thank you to my family for being very supportive.